Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we get the opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada and hear his transcendental ecstasies as he comments on the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I heard this today, Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu talking about the Bhagavatam, how it's the supreme rasika literature, is the basis for all of the commentaries on Krishna's pastimes, Bhagavatam. And therefore, it can only be heard and properly understood in the company of devotees who have a taste for hearing it. I think the very first verse of the Bhagavatam, where do I have very first book? Is there a copy of the first volume up there? Yeah, let's just because we're starting the beginning of the last chapter of the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. It's been a long time since we've reviewed this, but tragedy. If it belongs to no one. Second chapter of the Bhagavatam states, third verse, first chapter, third verse, Nigama kalpa tador galitam palam shuka mukhad amrita dravya samyutam pipata bhagavatam rasam alayam Mahur aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka ha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature, it emanating from the lips of Sri Shukadev Goswami. Therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, even though its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So Shukadev Goswami repeated what he heard from his father, Vyasadeva, who is the literary incarnation of Krishna in this particular Kali Yuga, to edit the Vedic literatures in a way that we can understand them here in the Kali Yuga. We don't have very much qualifications. So, when he heard the whole Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva, his father, then he repeated it when he met Parikshit Maharaj. Here he is, right there. That's him, Parikshit Maharaj. Sages in Amrishanya. There's only one slight mistake. There's not a mountain there. It's not so close to the mountains. Anyway, artistic license. That's part of the poetry of the Bhagavatam. It says things indirectly that aren't equal there to increase the rasa. The purpose of the Bhagavatam is to increase the rasa, the taste of spiritual life, and eventually reveal to us our relationship with Krishna. So here the part is very important, that when it said that it became even more relishable when it came through the mouth of Shukadev Goswami. Now, part of that is from realization, and part of it is just from consciousness. Actually, Shukadev Goswami repeated the Bhagavatam exactly word for word without changing one word, what he heard from Vyasadeva. This is mystical because all of the conversations, some of which hadn't even happened yet, some of which had already happened, even including the personalities, it was all there in the text of the Bhagavatam. So, because it passed through Shukadev Goswami's consciousness, it became more relishable, even though the words were exactly the same. So, if we want to give the Bhagavatam to others, we have to make our consciousness transparent. This is the purpose of sadhana bhakti. It's the purpose of everything we do the purpose of everything we do in Krishna consciousness, to make ourselves transparent, so that when we explain, read the Bhagavatam like we're doing now, word for word, or explain it to others, then their hearts will move. That's the purpose. Their hearts will change. Eventually their hearts will melt, and they'll be able to taste Krishna's association in the pages of the Bhagavatam. To get there, we have to give up envy, and we have to become honest. Paramom nirmatsaranam sitam. Okay, that's my little speech for the morning before we start. And Sanatana Goswami, his heart was completely cleaned. Just by looking at Lord Chaitanya and paying his obeisances, he became completely purified. Of course, he already was. These are eternal relationships that were awakened just by meeting each other on this plane. So Sanatana Goswami impressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his brother Rupa Goswami impressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so much, and he revealed that to his associates in Puri later on, when Rupa and Sanatana came in to meet him in Puri. He realized, he revealed to his intimate associates that he found these two personalities the most qualified, so he gave them his complete mercy. So by that complete mercy, Sanatana Goswami was able to write this glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So I just said that so that we can appreciate it more deeply, what we're hearing. We recite it every day to help us go deeper and to get our hearts purified, and so that we can melt when we hear the Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and it goes like this. Sarvashastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Dutitaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madekabando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mandishtadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin adinicho chatakada anamuncha kadashin mam premnarit kantayos pruda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, after hearing the wonderful pastime of Vamanadev liberating Bali Maharaj and enlivening the whole universe, now we're at the last chapter of the 8th canto, which is really ecstatic, because the 9th canto leads up to the 10th canto, and then we'll get to hear about Krishna, the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all of his transcendental activities. 90 chapters. Far more chapters than any other incarnation gets from Bhagavatam. Okay. Summary. Canto 8, chapter 24. Matsya, the Lord's fish incarnation. This chapter describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead's incarnation as a fish. And it also describes the saving of Maharaj Satyavrata from an inundation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself by Shwanksha, his personal expansions, and Vibhinangsha, his expansions as the living entities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears on this planet for the protection of the sadhus, or devotees, and for the destruction of the miscreants, or non-devotees. He especially descends to give protection to the cows, the brahmanas, the demigods, the devotees, and the Vedic system of religion. He thus appears in various forms, sometimes as a fish, sometimes a boar, sometimes Nrsingadev, sometimes Vamanadev, and so on. But in any form or incarnation, although he comes within the atmosphere of the material modes of nature, he is unaffected. This is a sign of his supreme controlling power. Although he comes within the material atmosphere, Maya cannot touch him. Therefore, no material qualities can be attributed to him in any degree. Once at the end of the previous kalpa, a demon named Hayagriva wanted to take the Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma at the time of annihilation. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of a fish at the beginning of the period of Swayambhuva Manu and saved the Vedas. During the reign of Chakshusha Manu, there was a king named Satyavrata, who was a great pious ruler. To save him, the Lord appeared as the fish incarnation for a second time. King Satyavrata later became the son of the sun god and was known as Shadadev. He was established as Manu by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To receive the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Satyavrata engaged in the austerity of subsisting only by drinking water. Once, while performing this austerity on the bank of the Kritamala river and offering oblations of water with the palm of his hand, he found a small fish. The fish appealed to the king for protection, asking the king to keep him in a safe place. Although the king did not know that the small fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, as a king, he gave shelter to the fish and kept him in a water jug. The fish, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wanted to show his potency to King Satyavrata, and thus he immediately expanded his body in such a way that he could no longer be kept in the jug of water. The king then put the fish in a big well, but the well was also too small. Then the king put the fish in a lake, but the lake was also unsuitable. Finally, the king put the fish in the sea, but even the sea could not accommodate him. Thus the king understood that the fish was no one else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he requested the Lord to describe his incarnation as a fish. The Personality of Godhead, being pleased with the king, informed him that within a week there would be an inundation throughout the universe, and that the fish incarnation would protect the king, along with the rishis, herbs, seeds, and other living entities, in a boat which would be attached to the fish's horn. After saying this, the Lord disappeared. King Satyavrata offered respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord and continued to meditate upon him. In due course of time, annihilation took place, and the king saw a boat coming near. After getting aboard with learned brahmanas and saintly persons, he offered prayers to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and thus he taught Maharaj Satyavrata and the saintly persons about Vedic knowledge from the core of the heart. King Satyavrata took his next birth as Vivaswata Manu, who is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Vivaswan Manabe Praha. The sun god spoke the science of Bhagavad Gita to his son, Manu. Because of being the son of Vivaswan, this Manu is known as Vivaswata Manu. Text 1. Maharaj Parikshit said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is eternally situated in his transcendental position. Yet he descends to this material world and manifests himself in various incarnations. His first incarnation was that of a great fish. O most powerful Shukadev Goswami, I wish to hear from you the pastimes of that fish incarnation. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-powerful, yet he accepted the form of an uncommon fish. This is one of the 10 original incarnations of the Lord. Texts 2 and 3. What was the purpose for which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted the abominable form of a fish, exactly like an ordinary living being accepts different forms under the laws of karma? The form of a fish is certainly condemned and full of terrible pain. O my Lord, what was the purpose of this incarnation? Kindly explain this to us, for hearing about the pastimes of the Lord is auspicious for everyone. Purport. Parikshit Maharaj's question to Shukadev Goswami was based on this principle stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4:7. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijam yaham. Whenever, wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. The Lord appears in each incarnation to save the world from irreligious principles, and especially to protect his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam. Vamanadev, for example, appeared to save the devotee Bali Maharaj. Similarly, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted the abominable form of a fish, he must have done so to favor some devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was eager to know about the devotee for whom the Supreme Lord accepted this form. Text 4. Sutta Goswami said, when Parikshit Maharaj thus inquired from Shukadev Goswami, that most powerful saintly person began describing the pastimes of the Lord's incarnation as a fish. Text 5. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles, and principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the forms of incarnations. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead generally appears in various types of incarnations to give protection to the cows and brahmanas. The Lord is described as Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. In other words, he is always eager to benefit the cows and brahmanas. When Lord Krishna appeared, he purposefully became a cowherd boy and showed personally how to give protection to the cows and calves. Similarly, he showed respect to Sudama Vipra, a real brahmana. From the Lord's personal activities, human society should learn how to give protection specifically to the brahmanas and cows. Then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of cows, Brahminical culture cannot be maintained. And without Brahminical culture, the aim of life cannot be fulfilled. The Lord therefore is described as Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, or Go Brahmana Hitaya, because his incarnation is only for the protection of the cows and Brahmanas. Unfortunately, because in Kali Yuga there is no protection of the cows in Brahminical culture, everything is in a precarious position. If human society wants to be exalted, the leaders of society must follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and give protection to the cows, the Brahmanas, and Brahminical culture. Text 6. Like the air passing through different types of atmosphere, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing sometimes as a human being and sometimes as a lower animal, is always transcendental. Because he is above the material modes of nature, he is unaffected by higher and lower forms. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of the material nature, Maya Jakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Therefore, being the supreme controller of the laws of nature, the Lord cannot be under their influence. For example, the example given in this regard is that although the wind blows through many places, the air is not affected by the qualities of these places. Although the air sometimes carries the odor of a filthy place, the air has nothing to do with such a place. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being all good and all auspicious, is never affected by the material qualities like an ordinary living entity. Purushak Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan. When the living entity is in the material nature, he is affected by its qualities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is not affected. Disrespectfully, one who does not know this considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead an ordinary living entity, a living being. Avajananti mam mudha, param bhavam ajananta. Such a conclusion is reached by the unintelligent because they are unaware of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Text 7. O King Parikshit, at the end of the past millennium, at the end of Brahma's day, because Lord Brahma sleeps during the night, annihilation took place, and the three worlds were covered by the water of the ocean. Text 8. At the end of Brahma's day, when Brahma felt sleepy and desired to lie down, the Vedas were emanating from his mouth, and the great demon named Hayagriva stole the Vedic knowledge. Text 9. Understanding the acts of the great demon, Hayagriva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who was full of all opulences, assumed the form of a fish and saved the Vedas by killing the demon. Purport. Because everything was inundated by water, to save the Vedas, it was necessary for the Lord to assume a form of a fish. Text 10. During the Chakshusha Manvantara, there was a great king named Satyavrata, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyavrata performed austerities by subsisting only on water. Purport. The Lord assumed one fish incarnation to save the Vedas at the beginning of the Swayambhuva Manvantara, and at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the Lord again assumed the form of a fish just to favor the great king named Satyavrata. As there were two incarnations of Varaha, there were also two incarnations of fish. The Lord appeared as one fish incarnation to save the Vedas by killing Hayagriva, and he assumed the other fish incarnation to show favor to King Satyavrata. Text 11. In this, the present millennium, King Satyavrata later became the son of Vivaswan, the king of the sun planet, and was known as Shadadev. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was given the post of Manu. Text 12. One day while King Satyavrata was performing austerities by offering water on the bank of the river Kritamala, a small fish appeared in the water in his palms. Text 13. Satyavrata, the king of Dravidadesh, threw the fish into the water of the river along with the water in his palm. O King Parikshit, descendant of Bharat. Text 14. With an appealing voice, this poor small fish said to King Satyavrata, who was very merciful, "My dear king, protector of the poor, why are you throwing me in the water of the river where there are other aquatics who can kill me? I'm very much afraid of them." Purport. In the Matsya Purana it is said, Ananta Shaktir Bhagavan Matsya Rupi Janardanaha Kridartam Yachayam Asa Swayam Satyavratam Nripam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead possesses unlimited potency. Nonetheless, in his pastime in the form of a fish, he begged protection from King Satyavrata. Text 15. To please himself, King Satyavrata, not knowing that the fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, decided with great pleasure to give the fish protection. Purport. Here is an example of giving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead even without knowledge. Such service is called Agyata Sukriti. King Satyavrata wanted to show his own mercy, not knowing that the fish was Lord Vishnu. By such unknowing devotional service rendered to the Supreme Lord, knowingly or unknowingly, never goes in vain. Text 16. The merciful king, being moved by the pitiable words of the fish, placed the fish in a water jug and brought him to his own residence. Text 17. But in one night, that fish grew so much that he could not move his body comfortably in the water of the pot. He then spoke to the king as follows. Text 18. My dear king, I do not like living in this water pot with such great difficulty. Therefore, please find some better reservoir of water where I can live comfortably. Text 19. Then, taking the fish out of the water pot, the king threw him in a large well. But within a moment, the fish developed to the length of 3 cubits. Text 20. The fish then said, "My dear king, this reservoir of water is not fit for my happy residence. Please give me a more extensive pool of water, for I have taken shelter of you." Text 21. O Maharaj Parikshit, the king took the fish from the well and threw him in a lake. But the fish then assumed a gigantic form exceeding the extent of the water. Text 22. The fish then said, "O king, I'm a large aquatic, and this water is not at all suitable for me. Now kindly find some way to save me. It would be better to put me in the water of a lake that will never reduce." Text 23. When thus requested, King Satyavrata took the fish to the largest reservoir of water. But when that also proved insufficient, the king at last threw the gigantic fish into the ocean. Text 24. While being thrown in the ocean, the fish said to King Satyavrata, "O hero, in this water there are very powerful and dangerous sharks that will eat me. Therefore you should not throw me in this place." Text 25. After hearing these sweet words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of the fish, the king, being bewildered, asked him, "Who are you, sir? You simply bewilder us." Text 26. My Lord, in one day you have expanded yourself for hundreds of miles, covering the water of the river and the ocean. Before this, I had never seen or heard of such an aquatic animal. Text 27. My Lord, you are certainly the inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, Sri Hari. It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic. 28. O my Lord, Master of creation, maintenance and annihilation, O best of enjoyers, Lord Vishnu, you are the leader and destination of surrendered devotees like us. Therefore, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Text 29. All your pastimes and incarnations certainly appear for the welfare of all living entities. Therefore, my Lord, I wish to know the purpose for which you have assumed this form of a fish. Text 30. O my Lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, the worship of the demigods who are in the bodily concept of life is fruitless in all respects. But because you are the supreme friend and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet is never useless. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish. Purport. The demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Surya are ordinary living entities who are differentiated parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord expands Himself through the living beings, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas, Chaitananam. Kata Upanishad 2.2.13. His personal Vishnu Tattva forms, which are all spiritual, are called Swangsha, and the living entities who are differentiated parts are called Vibhinangsha. Some of the Vibhinangsha forms are spiritual, and some are a combination of matter and spirit. The conditioned souls in the material world are different from their external bodies made of material energy. Thus the demigods living in the upper planetary systems and the living entities living in the lower planetary system are of the same nature. Nonetheless, those living as human beings on this planet are sometimes attracted to worshiping the demigods in the higher planetary systems. Such worship is temporary. As the human beings on this planet have to change their bodies, tata dehantara prapti, the living entities known as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and will also have to change their bodies in due course of time. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, antavat tupalam te sham, tadbhavat jalpame dasam. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who do not know the position of the demigods are inclined to worship the demigods for some material purpose, but the results of such worship are never permanent. Consequently, it is said, Yatitarshisham, Yatitarisham, Pritak Atmanam, Satam, Pado Pasar Panam, Misha Bhavet. In other words, if one is to worship someone else, he must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then his worship will never be fruitless. Salpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Even a slight attempt to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a permanent asset. Therefore, as recommended in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanam Pajam Harer, one should take to the worship of the lotus feet of Hari, even if this means giving up the so-called occupational duty assigned because of the particular body one has accepted. Because worship in terms of the body is temporary, it does not bear any permanent fruit. But worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives immense benefit. Text 31. Shukadeva Goswami said, when King Satyavrata spoke in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who at the end of the Yuga had assumed the form of a fish to benefit his devotee and enjoy his pastimes in the water of inundation, responded as follows. Text 32. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, who can subdue your enemies? O King, who can subdue your enemies? On the seventh day from today, the three worlds, Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa, will all merge into the water of inundation. Text 77. When all the three worlds merge into the water, a large boat sent by me will appear before you. Text 34 and 35. Therefore, O King, you shall collect all types of herbs and seeds and load them on that great boat. Then, accompanied by the 7 rishis and surrounded by all kinds of living entities, you shall get aboard that boat, and without moroseness, you shall easily travel with your companions on the ocean of inundation, the only illumination being the effulgence of the great rishis. Text 36. Then, as the boat is tossed about by the powerful winds, attach the vessel to my horn by means of the great serpent, Vasuki, for I shall be present by your side. Text 37. Pulling the boat with you and all the rishis in it, O King, I shall travel in the water of devastation until the night of Lord Brahma's slumber is over. Purport. This particular devastation actually took place not during the night of Lord Brahma, but during his day, for it was during the time of Chakshusha Manu. Brahma's night takes place when Brahma goes to sleep, but in the daytime there are 14 Manus, one of whom is Chakshusha Manu. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur comments that although it was daytime for Lord Brahma, Brahma felt sleepy for a short time, took a nap, felt sleepy for a short time by the supreme will of the Lord. This short period is regarded as Lord Brahma's night. This has been elaborately discussed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita. The following is a summary of his analysis. Because Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Manu, during the time of Swayambhuva Manu, a devastation took place. This devastation is mentioned in the Matsya Purana. During the time of Chakshusha Manu, by the supreme will of the Lord, there was suddenly another pralaya, or devastation. This is mentioned by Markandeya Rishi in the Vishnu Dharmottara. At the end of Manu's time, there is not necessarily a devastation, but at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his illusory energy, wanted to show Satyavrata the effects of devastation. Srila Sridhar Swami also agrees with this opinion. The Laghu Bhagavatamrita says, Madhye manvantarasyaiva mune shapan manum prati pralayo sao babhuviti purane kvachit iryate ayam akasmiko jatas chakshushas yantade manoho pralayat padmanabhasya lilayeti chakutrachit sarva manvantarasyante pralayo nishtitam babet Vishnu dharmottare tvetat markandeyena bhashitam manor antelayo nasti manave darshi mayaya Vishnureti Ruvanaistu Swami Bir Naisha Manyate. So that is the Sanskrit of what we just heard in the purport. Text 38. You will be thoroughly advised and favored by me, and because of your inquiries, everything about my glories, which are known as Param Brahma, will be manifest within your heart. Thus you will know everything about me. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanavisto matak smritir jnanam apavanam cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is situated in everyone's heart, and from Him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord reveals Himself in proportion to one's surrender to Him. Yayatam mam prapadyante tang stataiva bhajamyaham. In responsive cooperation, the Lord reveals Himself in proportion to one's surrender. That which is revealed to one who fully surrenders is different from what is revealed to one who surrenders partially. Everyone naturally surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead either directly or indirectly. The conditioned soul surrenders to the Lord. The conditioned soul surrenders to the laws of nature in material existence, but when one fully surrenders to the Lord, material nature does not act upon him. Such a fully surrendered soul is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One who is fully surrendered to the Lord has no fear of the modes of material nature, for everything is but an expansion of the Lord's glories. Sarvam kal vidam brahma. And these glories are gradually revealed and realized. The Lord is the Supreme Purifier. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Panamam Pavan. The more one is purified, and the more he wants to know about the Supreme, the more the Lord reveals to him. Full knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan is revealed to the pure devotees. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham eva 10:11, Tesham eva nukam partam aham agyana jam tamaha na shayam yat mabhabasto jnana deepena basvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Text 39. After thus instructing the king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately disappeared. Then King Satyavrata began to wait for that time of which the Lord had instructed. Text 40. After spreading Kusha, with its tips pointing east, the saintly king, himself facing the northeast, sat down on the grass and began to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who had assumed the form of a fish. Text 41. Thereafter, gigantic clouds pouring incessant water swelled the ocean more and more. Thus the ocean began to overflow onto the land and inundate the entire world. Text 42. As Satyavrata remembered the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw a boat coming near him. Thus he collected herbs and creepers, and accompanied by saintly brahmanas, he got aboard the boat. Text 43. The saintly brahmanas, being pleased with the king, said to him, O king, please meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. He will save us from this impending danger and arrange for our well-being. Text 44. Then, while Krishna constantly meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a large golden fish appeared in the ocean of inundation. The fish had one horn and was 8 million miles long. Text 45. Following the instructions formally given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the king anchored the boat to the fish's horn, using the serpent Vasuki as a rope. Thus being satisfied, he began offering prayers to the Lord. Text 46. The king said, "By the grace of the Lord, those who have lost their self-knowledge since time immemorial, and who, because of this ignorance, are involved in a material, conditional life full of miseries, obtain the chance to meet the Lord's devotee. I accept that Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supreme Spiritual Master." Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Lord knows everything about the suffering of the conditioned soul. Therefore, He appears in this material world, sometimes personally, sometimes by an incarnation, and sometimes by authorizing a living being to act on His behalf. In all cases, however, He is the original spiritual master who enlightens the conditioned souls who are suffering in the material world. The Lord is always busy helping the conditioned souls in many ways. Therefore, He is addressed here as Paramo Gurur Bhavan. The representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who acts to spread Krishna consciousness, is also guided by the Supreme Lord to act properly in executing the Lord's order. Such a person may appear to be an ordinary human being, but because he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Master, he is not to be neglected as ordinary. It is therefore said, Acharyam mam bijaniyat. An Acharya who acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be understood to be as good as the Supreme Lord Himself. Shakshad Darit Tvena Samasta Shastrayir Uktastata Bhavjata Eva Sadbihi Kintu Prabhoya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanadavindam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has advised that the spiritual master, acting on the Supreme Lord's behalf, must be worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Lord, for he is the Lord's most confidential servant in broadcasting the Lord's message for the benefit of the conditioned souls involved in the material world. Text 47. In hopes of becoming happy in this material world, the foolish conditioned soul performs fruitive activities that result only in suffering. But by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from such false desires for happiness. May my Supreme Spiritual Master cut the knot of false desires from the core of my heart. Purport. For material happiness, the conditioned soul involves himself in fruitive activities which actually put him into material distress. Because the conditioned soul does not know this, he is said to be in avidya, or ignorance. Because of false hope for happiness, the conditioned soul becomes involved in various plans for material activity. Here, Maharaj Satyavrata prays that the Lord sever this knot, this hard knot of false happiness, and thus become his supreme spiritual master. Text 48. One who wants to be free of material entanglement should take to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give up the contamination of ignorance involving pious and impious activities. Thus one regains his original identity, just as a block of gold or silver sheds all dirt and becomes purified when treated with fire. May that inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead become our spiritual master, for he is the original spiritual master of all other spiritual masters. Purport. In human life, one is meant to undergo austerity to purify one's existence. Tapo divyam putrika yena sattvam shudyat. Because of contamination by the modes of material nature, one continues in the cycle of birth and death. Karnam gunasangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Therefore, the purpose of human life is to purify oneself of this contamination so that one can regain his spiritual form and not undergo this cycle of birth and death. The recommended process of decontamination is devotional service to the Lord. There are various processes for self-realization, such as karma, jnana, and yoga, but none of them is equal to the process of devotional service. As gold and silver can be freed from all dirty contamination by being put into a fire, but not merely by being washed, the living entity can be awakened to his own identity by performing devotional service, yat sevaya, but not by karma, jnana, or yoga. Cultivation of speculative knowledge or practice of yoga gymnastics will not be helpful. The word varnam refers to the luster of one's original identity. The original luster of gold or silver is brilliant. Similarly, the original luster of the living being who is part of the Satchidananda Vigraha is the luster of ananda, or pleasure. Anandamayo vyasad. Every living entity has the right to become anandamaya, joyful, because he is part of the Satchidananda Vigraha, Krishna. Why should the living entity be put into tribulation because of dirty contamination by the material modes of nature? The living entity should become purified and regain his sarup, his original identity. This he can do only by devotional service. Therefore, one should adopt the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described here as Gurur Guru, the spiritual master of all other spiritual masters. Even though we may not have the fortune to contact the Supreme Lord personally, the Lord's representative is as good as the Lord himself, because such a representative does not say anything unless it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore gives a definition of Guru. Yarideka tarikaha Krishna Upadesh. The bona fide Guru is he who advises his disciples exactly in accordance with the principles spoken by Krishna. The bona fide Guru is one who has accepted Krishna as Guru. This is the Guru Parampara system. The original Guru is Vyasadeva, because he is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam, wherein everything spoken relates to Krishna. Therefore, Guru Puja is known as Vyasa Puja. In the final analysis, the original Guru is Krishna. His disciple is Narada, whose disciple is Vyasa. And in this way, we gradually come in touch with the Guru Parampara. One cannot become a Guru if he does not know what the personality of Godhead Krishna or his incarnation wants. I'll repeat that. One cannot become a Guru if he does not know what the personality of Godhead Krishna or his incarnation wants. The mission of the Guru is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Text 49. How many verses? 60 verses we have in this chapter? How many verses in the chapter?
61.
61. God, it's only 12 verses. We can go for it. Should we go for it? Shall we? Shall we? Take a vote. Okay. We just took a vote. It's unanimous. We're going to continue to the end of the 8th canto today itself. Okay, text 49. Neither all the demigods, nor the so-called gurus, nor all other people, either independently or together, can offer mercy that equals even 1/10,000th of yours. Therefore I wish to take shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. It is said, Kamaistaista Rittigyana Prapadyantenya Devata. People in general, being motivated by material desires, worship the demigods to get fruitive results very quickly. People generally do not become devotees of Lord Vishnu, since Lord Vishnu never becomes the order supplier of his devotee. Lord Vishnu does not give a devotee benedictions that will create a further demand for benedictions. By worshipping the demigods, one may get results, but as described in Bhagavad Gita, Antavat tupalam te sham, tadbhavat yalpamedasam. Whatever great benedictions one may achieve from the demigods are all temporary. Because the demigods themselves are temporary, their benedictions are also temporary and have no permanent value. Those who aspire for such benedictions have a poor fund of knowledge. Tadbhavat yalpamedasam. The benedictions of Lord Vishnu are different. By the mercy of the Lord Vishnu, one can be completely freed from material contamination and go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, the benedictions offered by the demigods cannot compare to even 1/10,000th of the Lord's benedictions. One should not, therefore, try to obtain benedictions from the demigods or false gurus. One should aspire only for the benediction offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is the greatest benediction. Text 50. As a blind man, being unable to see, accepts another blind man as his leader, people who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. But we are interested in self-realization. Therefore, we accept you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as our spiritual master. For you are able to see in all directions and are omniscient like the sun. Purport. The conditioned soul, being wrapped in ignorance and therefore not knowing the goal of life, accepts a guru who can juggle words and make some display of magic that is wonderful to a fool. Sometimes a foolish person accepts someone as a guru because he can manufacture a small quantity of gold by mystic yogic power. Because such a disciple has a poor fund of knowledge, he cannot judge whether the manufacture of gold is the criterion for a guru. Why should one not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, from whom unlimited numbers of gold mines have come into being? Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mattak sarvam pavartate. All the gold mines are created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, why should one accept a magician who can manufacture only a small portion of gold? Such gurus are accepted by those who are blind, not knowing the goal of life. Maharaj Satyavrata, however, knew the goal of life. He knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he accepted the Lord as his guru. Either the Supreme Lord or his representative can become guru. The Lord says, Mam eva ye prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. One can get relief from the clutches of Maya as soon as he surrenders unto me. Therefore it is the Guru's business to instruct his disciple to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he wants relief from the material clutches. This is the symptom of the Guru. This same principle was instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yari Deka Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh. In other words, one is advised not to accept a guru who does not follow the path of instruction given by Lord Krishna. Text 51. Nectar. Pure nectar. A materialistic so-called guru instructs his materialistic disciples about economic development and sense gratification. And because of such instructions, the foolish disciples continue in the materialistic existence of ignorance. But your Lordship gives knowledge that is eternal, and the intelligent person, receiving such knowledge, is quickly situated in his original constitutional position. Purport. So-called gurus instruct their disciples for the sake of material profit. Some guru advises that one meditate in such a way that his intelligence will increase in regard to keeping his body fit for sense gratification. Another guru advises that sex is the ultimate goal of life, and that one should therefore engage in sex to the best of his ability. These are the instructions of foolish gurus. In other words, because of the instructions of a foolish guru, one remains perpetually in material existence and suffers its tribulations. But if one is intelligent enough to take instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita or the Sankhya philosophy of Kapila Dev, one can very soon attain liberation and be situated in his original position of spiritual life. The words Nijam Padam are significant. The living entity, being part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has the birthright to a position in Vaikuntha Loka, or the spiritual world, where there is no anxiety. Therefore, one should follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Chaktva Deham Punarjanma Naitimam Eti Sorjana. After giving up one's body, one will return home, back to Godhead. The Lord lives in the spiritual world, in his original personality, and a devotee who follows the instructions of the Lord approaches him, Mam Eti. As a spiritual person, such a devotee returns to the personality of Godhead and plays and dances with him. That is the ultimate goal of life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Text 52. My Lord, you are the supreme, well-wishing friend of everyone, the dearmost friend, the controller, the supersoul, the supreme instructor, and the giver of supreme knowledge, and the fulfillment of all desires. But although you are within the heart, the foolish, because of lusty desires in the heart, cannot understand you. Purport. Herein the reason for foolishness is described. Because the conditioned soul, here in this material world, is full of materialistic, lusty desires, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Ishwarak Sarvabhutanam Riddhashara Junatishtati. It is because of this foolishness that one cannot take instructions from the Lord, although the Lord is ready to instruct everyone, both externally and internally. The Lord says, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayantite. In other words, the Lord can give instructions on devotional service by which one can return home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, however, people do not take this devotional service. The Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, can give one complete instructions on going home back to Godhead. But because of lusty desires, one engages himself in materialistic activities and does not render service to the Lord. Therefore, one is bereft of the value of the Lord's instructions. By mental speculation, one can understand that one is not the body, but a spirit soul. But unless one engages in devotional service, the real purpose of life is never fulfilled. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, and live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are different items of ananda, spiritual happiness, and spiritual variegatedness. Even though one may come to the platform of Brahma Bhuta, and understand his spiritual identity by speculative knowledge, one cannot enjoy spiritual life without understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is indicated here by the word Abhishta Siddhi. One can fulfill the ultimate goal of life only by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Then the Lord will give one proper instructions on how to go back home, back to Godhead. Text 53. I forgot to ask how long the purport's. Anyway, I made it, I said it, we're going to do it. O Supreme Lord, for self-realization I surrender unto you, who are worshipped by the demigods as the supreme controller of everything. By your instructions, exposing life's purpose, kindly cut the knot from the core of my heart and let me know the destination of my life. What a prayer. Let's hear that one again, even though it's late. O Supreme Lord, for self-realization I surrender unto you, who are worshipped by the demigods as the supreme controller of everything. By your instructions, exposing life's purpose, kindly cut the knot from the core of my heart and let me know the destination of my life. Purport. Sometimes it is argued that people do not know who is a spiritual master, and that finding a spiritual master from whom to get enlightenment in regard to the destination of life is very difficult. To answer all these questions, King Satyavrata shows us the way to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the real spiritual master. The Supreme Lord has given full directions in Bhagavad Gita about how to deal with everything in this material world and how to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, one should not be misled by so-called gurus who are rascals and fools. Rather, one should directly see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the guru or instructor. It is difficult, however, to understand Bhagavad Gita without the help of the guru. Therefore, the guru appears in the Parampara system. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tatpadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Lord Krishna directly instructed Arjuna. Arjuna is therefore Tatpadarshi, or Guru. Arjuna accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. Similarly, following in the footsteps of Sri Arjuna, who is a personal devotee of the Lord, one should accept the supremacy of Lord Krishna as supported by Vyas, Devala, Asita, Narada, and later by the Acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka, and Vishnu Swami, and still later, the greatest Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Where then is the difficulty in finding a guru? If one is sincere, he can find the guru and learn everything. One should take lessons from the guru and find out the goal of life. Maharaj Satyavrata therefore shows us the way of the Mahajan. Mahajano yenagata sapanta. One should surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dashavatar, and learn from him about the spiritual world and the goal of life. What a purport. Nobody can write like that. Text 54. Anybody who complains about these books is an idiot. No offense intended to anyone. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when Satyavrata had thus prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had assumed the form of a fish, the Lord, while moving in the water of inundation, explained to him the Absolute Truth. Text 55. The Supreme Personality of Godhead thus explained to King Satyavrata the spiritual science known as Sankhya Yoga, the science by which one distinguishes between matter and spirit. In other words, Bhakti Yoga. Along with the instructions contained in the Puranas, the old histories, and the Samhitas, the Lord explained himself in all these literatures. Text 56. While sitting in the boat, King Satyavrata, accompanied by the great saintly persons, listened to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in regard to self-realization. These instructions were all from the eternal Vedic literature, Brahma. Thus the king and sages had no doubt about the Absolute Truth. 57. At the end of the last inundation, during the period of Swayambhuva Manu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead killed the demon named Hayagriva and delivered all the Vedic literatures to Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma awakened from sleeping. Text 58. King Satyavrata was illuminated with all Vedic knowledge by the mercy of Lord Vishnu, and in this period he has now taken birth as Vaivasvatamanu, the son of the sun god. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives his verdict that Satyavrata appeared in Chakshusha Manvantara. When the Chakshusha Manvantara ended, the period of Vaivasvatamanu began. By the grace of Lord Vishnu, Satyavrata received instructions from the second fish incarnation and was thus enlightened in all spiritual knowledge. Text 59. This story concerning the great king Satyavrata and the fish incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is a great transcendental narration. Anyone who hears it is delivered from the reactions of sinful life. Congratulations, everyone. Hare Krishna. Text 60. Now all you have to do is surrender completely and you'll get the whole thing. Text 60. One who narrates this description of the Matsya incarnation and King Satyavrata will certainly have all his ambitions fulfilled. Let's finish the audiobook. Go. Maya's conch shell turned into Vishnu's conch shell. All of a sudden. One who narrates this description of the Matsya incarnation and King Satyavrata will certainly have all his ambitions fulfilled, and he will undoubtedly return home back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Text 61. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who pretended to be a gigantic fish, who restored the Vedic literature to Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma awakened from sleep, and who explained the essence of Vedic literature to King Satyavrata and the great saintly persons. Purport. Here is a summary of Satyavrata's meeting with the fish incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu's purpose was to take back all the Vedic literature from the demon Hayagriva and restore them to Lord Brahma. Incidentally, by his causeless mercy, the Lord spoke with Satyavrata. The word Satyavratanam is significant because it indicates that those on the level of Satyavrata can take knowledge from the Vedas delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is spoken by the Supreme Lord is accepted as Veda. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta Krit Veda Vit. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the compiler of all Vedic literature, and he knows the purport of the Vedas. Therefore, anyone who takes knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or from Bhagavad Gita, as it is, knows the purpose of the Vedas. Vidaischa sarvar aham eva vedya. One cannot understand Vedic knowledge from the Veda Vada Ratas, who read the Vedas and misconstrue their subject matter. One has to know the Vedas from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 24th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Matsya, the Lord's Fish Incarnation. This commentation has been finished in our New Delhi Center today, the 1st of September 1976, the day of Radhastami, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Acharyas. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Tandira Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanivas Janami Janami Hoy E Abhilash. I am attempting to present Srimad Bhagavatam in the English language by the order of my spiritual master, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and by his grace the work of translation is gradually progressing, and the European and American devotees who have joined the Krishna consciousness movement are helping me considerably. Thus we have expectations of finishing the great task before my passing away. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. End of the 8th canto. That's almost as good as ecstatic dancing. That's called ecstatic clapping. Hear the Bhagavatam and ecstatic clap ecstatically. We learned this from Pranahari's spiritual master, Vaisheshika Prabhu. We've been doing this in Govardhan for the past 17 years, every Kartik. And we do this 5 hours a day during Kartik for the last 17 years. That's where we got the idea. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we finished the 8th canto. So we'll have a short reflection over that chapter. Yes, please, Jorge, Bhakta Jorge, get the first crack at it.
Well, I kind of had two little comments or questions. One was kind of like a reflection, kind of seeing a little bit of the similarities in kind of the story in the Bible of Noah, you know? So I was kind of just thinking about that. And then I was also interested in knowing if you knew anything about, it says here that by the grace of Lord Vishnu in the purport of 58, Satyavrata received instructions from the second fish incarnation. I had never heard of. I mean, I remember reading this before, but I guess I forgot about it. That there was a second fish incarnation. I don't know if you know something about this.
It explained it exactly, the texts. Yeah. So reread the texts around that purport and those texts, and you'll get it direct.
Okay.
I don't have to re-explain it.
Okay.
It's explained exactly why.
Okay.
Hayagriva took the Vedas.
Yeah.
So the fish incarnation came and got the Vedas, and then he appeared again, and so that Satyavrata could save the Vedas.
Okay.
And he could explain them to Satyavrata.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because it was one Manvantara to another, directly from the first to the second.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't overlapping.
Yeah.
He was there, but it overlapped the first two. Yes, Jai Shri, you've got the mic. Full advantage.
A short realization. In the purport of verse 52, Srila Prabhupada mentioned the real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. And then he's elaborately mentioned to live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these are the different items of Ananda, spiritual happiness in spiritual variegatedness, which is so wonderful actually. You can live with the God and eat with Him, play with Him, dance with Him, which is I don't think we can find any kinds of, this kind of mood or descriptions in any other religions I
No.
ever encounter.
No.
It's so boring. I have to say, I have been a Catholic and a Christian for a long time, and compared to all this, it's nothing. It's so boring.
Dry as a bone.
Yeah, very dry, and then
The dog chews on the bone, tries to get some juice out of the bone.
and it's just by hearing this so happy. Everyone got happy and excited. Oh, I really want to go back home. Back
Yes.
to Godhead.
Yes.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Yes. Prana.
We heard a lot about the Guru Tattva and the difference between a bona fide guru and one who is not a bona fide guru. And I thought I'd just say one small story. It's a real life story, a real life event that happened, and it was in the news how this one gentleman, he was a New Yorker, Indian-bodied, but New Yorker. And he decided to do a social experiment to prove that faith, spirituality, faith in God, faith in a guru is actually nonsense. So he went to India and met like his grandmother or something, and picked up the Indian accent. Spent time talking with her, picked up the accent, learned how to speak in that accent, and got all saffron cloth and grew a big beard. Went back to New York and opened up his own center and concocted a whole religion, a whole spiritual system, taking a little bit from this and that, and made up a whole thing, and got followers, made disciples, and did this whole thing for a whole year. And then at the end of the year, he decided, I'm gonna now expose this.
The jig's up.
And he exposed it to his disciples, and some of them reacted all differently. Some of them were very angry. Some of them very, very bewildered, and then some of them just wouldn't actually give it up. They thought, no, you are my guru, even though he was telling them, I'm a complete fake, complete fraud, I made everything up. And so it made, basically the Prabhupada's purports made me think of that, because the blind leading the blind, those who want to be cheated will be cheated, and so it doesn't prove anything, because we understand those, Krishna is reciprocating with everyone's actual desires. So anyhow,
I when I heard you say that, I remembered that place in the reading where it said that the Lord reveals himself according to the proportion of one's surrender. So whatever this guy was teaching, it wasn't. And I heard something, when was it? It was this morning, from Prabhupada directly. He was answering he was in Honolulu, and there was a very intense discussion going on in his room between some devotees who were trying to figure out how to do this, how to do that. And they were kind of doubtful a little bit of the absoluteness of the philosophy, and Prabhupada was kind of trying to teach them, this is the bona fide guru, trying to tell them what is the truth. And he said, in a forest, there's a mouse and there's a lion. And the residents of the forest, they bow down to the lion and they don't even care about the mouse. But they're both animals. Just because the mouth is very tiny and the lion's very big, they're both animals. The lion doesn't become something more than an animal just because he's bigger and more powerful and, worshipped by all the other animals in the forest. So the major cities in the world now have become forests of enjoyment. The classic one is Hong Kong. You've never seen when I flew over Hong Kong and I saw what it was like, I couldn't believe my eyes. the more 70-story or taller buildings in Hong Kong in any other place in the world. It was like a forest of concrete jungle, they call it, And the people who are living there, just because they're living in the big cities and they have sophisticated this, sophisticated that, doesn't mean they're no different than animals. If you don't know who you are. Anyway, Hare Krishna. And my reflection, it's not so difficult to be a guru. Just repeat what Krishna says. It's as simple as that. Just agree to repeat what Krishna says, and don't make it up. Don't try to say things in a fancy way so that other people will think you're great, so that they'll come and surrender to you as guru. Just go straight. There was one, I think it was Satsvarup Maharaj or somebody, and at one point devotees were getting a little bewildered by some Indian guru in India, and at one point Prabhupada said, "I'll take my Prabhupada straight, thank you." So I like that. So if you just take your Krishna consciousness straight, right from Krishna, then you're safe, no matter what. And with that, I'll close tonight's session. It's a little late, but it was worth it. Those purports by Srila Prabhupada and Guru Tattva were the summum bonum of authority. How to get real knowledge, how to learn how to go back to Godhead and be happy and joyful and blissful under any condition of life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Matsya avatar ki jai. King Satyavrata ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Go Premanandi. Did we have any from cyberspace? Maybe we did.
It's still on.
Oh, it's still on? Forgive us, all you out there in cyberspace. We got carried away. So, take notes of your comments and ask them tomorrow, and we'll answer them tomorrow. Hare Krishna. We'll hear them.